Hi, Johnny. How's your day going?
Hi, Annie. Yeah, all good, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, all good. Thank you. We'll just give everybody a couple of minutes before we get going and talk about Appy, our favourite thing. Let's talk AI. Hey, how's your morning been? What have you been up to?
Pretty busy. Yeah, pretty busy. Chat with the guys, sprint planning, um, walk the dog. Pretty much it. Yeah, it's good. You?
Cool. Yeah, nah, yeah, dropping the kids off this morning and then yeah, straight to it really, which is quite nice. Productive morning so far.
Good.
Great stuff. I can see we've got quite a few people joined now, so let's get into it. Let's talk AI. Hey. Fantastic. So today, how it's going to work is we're going to talk to you about Appy, our AI agent that is live within the Engage platform right now. We're then going to tell you a little bit around how our customers are currently using it and the benefits that they are finding that the platform is giving them. And then we're going to think about what's to come as well, because obviously AI is changing all of the time, and we know that we need to be making sure that we are continuing to develop and obviously get that functionality as amazing as possible for all of our lovely customers. There are obviously a number of commonly asked questions when it comes to getting Appy live within the Engage platform. So we'll hopefully answer a few of those if anybody wants to pose those towards the end of the session. And yeah, let's get talking. So we can move on to the next slide, I think.
Yeah, sounds good.
Fantastic. So, I think the main thing to take away is this is your own AI. And when I come on to the examples in a moment, it's we're going to look at it's your AI. There's nothing pooled and nothing shared. So I think they are probably some of the most important takeaways from today's session, because there is obviously a lot of concern with other AI models out there and how sometimes they might hallucinate. Well, obviously that isn't going to be happening with Appy because it is just looking at your information. So firstly, Appy knows your people, because we have, regardless of the customer audience that we're looking at, whether that's colleague, community, or customers itself, regardless of that user base, Appy knows the people that are using the platform based on the data that's inside there. And obviously, it's looking at the content that's within the platform, the documents that are uploaded, the social posts, and then soon to be messaging, which I'm sure you'll go on as well. And then obviously, Johnny, it connects the dots as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, your Engage platform is hosted to a number of features across your Connect, across your feed, across your events, your groups. So there's a lot of moving parts, kind of within your kind of your engine. So essentially, it's our kind of job to bring those, I say, all together and to work as one and to supply you with the answers that you're looking for really efficiently, but essentially based on what you're after. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts that we're bringing kind of into one.
Fantastic. So I think with all new technology, it is a process to get it out to our lovely customers. So that is my key aim and ambition for this year, to get as many of our customers live with Appy. So those customers that are live with it at the moment, we're seeing that their inboxes are quieter. Um, we're seeing that people are actually being able to go and find the answer to the questions themselves really quite quickly. So, from a return on investment perspective, the fact that less resource is needed and kind of straight out the gate to answer questions and queries from those colleagues, and point them in the right direction for resources that are already available. For me, that is a big win, because I'm sure those teams, client side, can be used far more efficiently to to take on a different type of project, and hopefully something a little more fun than answering a question that they probably already answered 5 times today via email. So yeah, that's one of the biggest takeaways at the moment. That time saved, I think, is definitely up there. So yeah, let's kind of go ahead and like kind of think about what we're going to be showing you today. So you know Obviously, Appy isn't just search, it isn't just a keyword search. And I'll kind of go into that when I share my screen shortly and look at those examples of what actually is returned from the AI agent within the platform when you look at a keyword. Obviously, then we're thinking about kind of how we pivot. So it's not just kind of the question that is asked, but also those additional resources that we can share when a question is posed within the agent. How we're then kind of one step ahead of hopefully the user, because Appy is looking at everything that is available to that user within that platform. You can also ask multiple different questions within that one thread. So whereas previously you might have to ask, can you find me this policy? Okay, great. It surfaced that policy, but actually, Appy, you can ask for two things at once, and it'll pull the answers into one place for you. Um, and as well, it's not just looking at the content pages. We're able to actually point you in the right direction to people that are going to answer your queries. Also, those um, users within the platform who might have badges associated to them, which makes them form part of a community as well. All of those good things, so I'll show you that as well. And as well, it is honest. If we don't have the answer, if Appy doesn't have the answer, it's going to tell you that. And that is really great, because your users aren't left in any kind of limbo. Then they know that that information isn't available, and they can then go on a journey to try and find that information as well. Yeah, and there is that ability to actually put you in the right direction to a person to be able to help, rather than just using the agent within the platform. So this is our Engage web version. So just to let you know that our AI agent is available to help you from the top navigation on both web and app. It's always there, it always persists. So you could be within the home page, you're deep within one of your content pages. You might not quite find the answer within that. So you can then just come straight up and ask Appy up here. So I have a few different examples that I'd like to show you today. So firstly, and this is one that I always will use because it shows that the platform is not straying outside of your version of Engage. So if I was to ask, what's today's weather like? An answer will not be returned, because it's only looking at the documents and content that are available within the platform right now. It's not going off and searching the web. So even within your content pages, if you have a link, say to BBC News or BBC Weather as an example, it's not going to search that URL. It's only going to search the content within the page. And we'll come on to how we can look at connections to other platforms shortly. But right now, from a security perspective, and to reassure you, it's just looking at your tenant. Okay, and then in addition to that, we need to think about your permissions. So with our Engage users across all of the different audiences we work with, we actually have a set of permissions against us. So as a user of our version of Engage, as a customer success manager, I don't sit in the SLT or the exec team. However, I know within our SLT and exec that they use Engage to share the latest board pack with each other. I was being a little bit cheeky, and I actually asked Appy, can I see the latest board pack? Appy didn't just say no to me. It said it didn't have the information, which is fine, but it also helped me and pointed me in the right direction of our leader, Phil, or the wider leadership team, to help me get that information. So yes, I can't see it because my permissions don't allow me to, but Appy has actually been helpful and pointed me in the right direction, which I think is really great and is really helpful. So a few other things to show you. Within this example here, I've been purposefully vague. I've asked, help me find my benefits. So there's a couple of things that I want to show you in here. Firstly, as I say, I've been vague. So I've asked, help me find my benefits. And at this point, I have had a summary of my employee benefits given to me. Those employee benefits sit within my employment contract. At this point, I can download my employment contract really easily and review that. However, if I don't have time to review the whole document, I've had that summarised for me, which is really great. If I then scroll down, I also then asked, do we have a benefits partner? At the time in which I made the this chat, we had just a high level amount of information on our benefits partner within the platform. So here you can see that our additional sources have been found where this information came from. I've then gone on to ask, and this is me being a little bit cheeky here, which retailers can I get discounts in? At this point in time, we didn't have a connection available with our benefits partner, Circular Benefits. However, we do now. So if I just click into here, actually, I've then yesterday, as I was preparing for this session, asked Appy, tell me about my benefits. And in that short amount of time, the agent's knowledge has grown due to the information that has been added to our platform. So I now have a really great summary of those benefits and also additional information on the discounts that I can get from those different retailers. Again, this points me in the right direction of additional resources such as the Benefits Hub, and which also has information on the gift card discounts. And that's what I was looking for. So it just shows as and when we add that additional information into the platform or a connection is established with a third party, such as Circular Benefits, we can then provide a better response to our end users who are looking for that information. So we've done that with Circular using an API through the CMS, and that is something that we can look to roll out to those customers as well who are using Circular Benefits as an added extra. Okay, so here's a example where I've been really vague. So I was on a call a little while ago with a CPO, and they asked me, Annie, just ask about maternity. So I did that. I asked just one word of Appy, maternity. At that point then, Appy has fantastically summarised maternity leave, maternity pay, info on antenatal appointments, and much more for me. So if I was a colleague who was going on that maternity journey, I'd be able to get all of that information fantastically summarised in one place, and I'd also be able to return to this chat to read this information as and when possibly antenatal appointments came up and things like that. In this specific instance, the CPO I was chatting to wanted to find out, if I asked Appy the question, how much maternity pay will I get, what kind of response it would yield, because they were finding that their inbox internally was getting bombarded with questions like this. So, how much maternity pay will I get? Again, we've had a more complex answer than the initial summary up here. And also, again, we've been pointed in the right direction of the original source so that colleague could, again, download that information and save that for later. Or, as I say, keep coming back to this chat and referring to that. Here we think of a couple of different things. So I wanted to understand about return to work and the information that was available to, say, a manager within Engage on returning to work. So I simply say, return to work. And then Appy, obviously, happy to help and ask the question, am I looking at the policies, process, or something else altogether? So I've actually said policies and process. At this point, I get a really great response on return to work interviews, certification requirements, those reasonable adjustments, and of course, an important note for me as the user who needs to kind of take a look at that. Again, I have those additional resources. So a couple of policies have come together in one place, the absence policy and the dismissal and sickness policy. They're available and have been reviewed in order to provide me with this answer. And in addition to that, and I know this is something that I gained from talking to customers and talking about how they're going to use Appy within the colleague audiences, they would like Appy to be that tool to help their managers during the difficult conversations that they might be having, for it to be essentially that manager hub. So that's another really great way to use AI and to use the agent built within Engage, so that we're actually saving time and ensuring that that process is as streamlined as possible for our managers. So the question I asked here was, how do I have a performance conversation with a colleague? So it's given me a 4 points for us to work through, which is really great. Instead of having to read through possibly a complicated policy, it's really nicely summarised that for me. And again, should I have time, it's referred me back to the good feedback information it has, and also the disciplinary policy. So there's some great examples there. We also know that Appy helps us find our people. So I've asked, who are the mental health first aiders? So here I have information on the mental health first aiders within the Engage team, also when they qualified as well. So that's really great. So I can go and find that information, connect with those colleagues, and then find the help that's necessary. So, in terms of the demo, I think they're the main things within the platform that I'd like to show you. Hopefully, that answers a lot to those common questions that you have. So, I just stop the share now. And I think we're into the more technical things, Johnny. Those questions that you and I have to answer during those many appy demos, but obviously something that we can cover off on this webinar as well.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Danny. I think the beauty of Appi and your kind of AI agent itself is that it's purely for your platform and for your data only. Other models that you're potentially being exposed to or use, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude, etc., they're obviously the data that they get is a combination, depending how you set it up, but essentially mainly out there from the internet. Your AI agent itself is purely based around your tenant and your company, your users, your content, and that's it. So in terms of the permission scoped kind of answers, it basically only returns back what it knows. So our guardrails upon all of that are very high level, essentially giving you that guarantee that the answers that your users get, depending what user group that they're in, is only going to be on the content that's within the platform that's been kind of submitted, and then future ones have been submitted as well. I think Annie showed you as well the previous example before of if a specific user asks a question that they shouldn't have access to, it comes back with that answer, which tells them in a kind of nice kind of way that I can't access that information. So your CMS users or the admins have the ability to really govern what Appy tells to your front end users, which is good for that kind of security based side of things. Like all of our tech as well, it's extremely secure. It's all hosted on our kind of normal infrastructure on AWS, meaning that it's all kind of tenant isolated. So that's another guarantee on that side. Again, the emphasis on this and the big kind of point for us is it's purely just your data. So the AI agent itself is learning continuously in terms of what's being inputted into it. Nothing's made up, nothing's been brought in that's not correct. It's all based on facts and inputs from your side. So there isn't really a kind of other separate AI tool that could do that based on your Engage platform. So one of the main areas as well, which we get asked quite a lot, is this a kind of module added in? Is it another kind of a product, etc.? This is already within your Engage platform. So the platform that that your users use day in, day out. There's no change to the infrastructure, no change to how it looks in terms of the UX. Your agent itself will lie inside your platform. There'll be no additional kind of workload needed. As Annie went through beforehand, the agent itself is surfaced in the top navigation, and it's a very kind of easy workflow for your front end users to be able to access and to start asking questions, gain information. So it kind of comes back to the point where it's all within your one centralized platform, and coming back to the area of connecting the dots, it makes life for your end users 10 times easier. So if they're wanting to find a policy or document that they might have to go and dive into a certain folder or content area, it's as simple as asking that question to your agent. It will go do the work for them and supply it back in a nice laid out answer with additional sources where they can go and access what they're after, essentially. I think that's pretty much it from that area. So this is a really exciting bit as well. Obviously, right now, kind of Appy itself is has we've labeled it from our Engage platform, but with what you know us to be and how our kind of platform is set up to be, it's extremely customizable. So obviously you've got customization of how it looks, how it feels, the colors, the logos, um, the content, the wording, etc. And we've tried to maintain that across this kind of new area within the platform. So we're giving you the ability to name your agent, and not only that, we want to give it its own look and identity. So whatever agent you want to come up with, whether you call it Buzz or I'm not sure any kind of names you can kind of name it, but um, your kind of marketing team or your kind of internal team can come together and give it its own brand essentially. So the ability to obviously give it its own name, its own logo, and with that you create that whole kind of space that you want to for your user to interact with. So that's kind of the branding kind of customization side of things. We're then going one step further where the agent itself is obviously searching for all your content. It knows your a directory. It can bring together those answers really quickly, but it's important to give it your company's context. So we kind of call it tenant context. So essentially, we've made it super easy in the CMS, which is the admin side of the platform, where you can give it context of your company quickly. So we actually have a kind of scan and suggest feature where you'll paste in your website that will scan your entire site and it will get all the information about your company really quickly. Or you can do that manually, kind of either or. Once it goes that, it knows you. It understands what industry you work in, what your mission statement is, just a bit of background about your company itself. Because like a lot of the content that you'll be uploading in your platform might not be what we do, how we operate, and these are our kind of areas. So it's important that we give your agent the full context of your company. That partnered with all of the content makes a really good picture and really good kind of foundation for the answers that it produces. Alongside that, you have the ability to give it key terminology. You might refer to one area as one thing and it means another. I'm just trying to think of an example here, Annie, that it could be a bit
Yeah,
of
I
a
think a good one is I know that the lovely customer Itsu, they call their regions circles. So that's a good bit of context that we'd probably give an appy so that they understand how they use the platform specifically. I know that as well. We've got a number of customers who are on the acquisition trail. I think once they acquire an organisation, possibly it's folded into another part of the business and it's called something else. It'd be good to give Appy that context of the previous name of the organisation in case there's any kind of like hangover content there, I reckon.
yeah, exactly that. So there could be lingo terms that you use internally as well that you want your agent to know about. If you're referring to one thing, it means this. So essentially, we have that kind of terminology piece for you. One really cool area is you can set the kind of tone of voice of your agent itself. So essentially, the formality of it, if you want it to be more casual or more formal, you can essentially drag it to the one side or another. If you want it to be more concise or more detailed, you can go that way as well. Or if you want it to be a bit more direct and to the point or a bit warmer, you can kind of configure how you want your agent to kind of act and respond back to your front end users. So that's quite a cool addition that we've added in. You also get the ability to preview what that would kind of feel like and say. So you can kind of set your boundaries of how you want it to act, and then you can kind of see in live how that would sound and what the replies would kind of look like with some example questions that we provide. You can also give it kind of the ability to what not to say, what terms to say, etc. So there could be some areas within your platform that you don't want your agent to say. Could be a specific term, could be a string of sentences. So you can give it that extra bit of guardrails for that. So everything that I've kind of described there fits really nicely into the next bit. So you can give your agent its kind of company context and company side of things. you can then also go one step further and break it down into user groups. Um, so, just Annie, just give a quick lowdown on the user groups and
Yeah,
how that
so
works in there.
absolutely. So yeah, the user groups are those things that we set up within the platform to ensure that your end users are seeing what they need to and when they need to. So a few examples of how user groups would work. So you might be a big group organization like our Donna. They've got lots of different, they call them actually segments or platforms within the business. So they within the business have their own different tone of voice and things like that that need to be set up. Also, due to geography, there are different regulations, different policies and things like that. So that's a really good example of actually how Appy can ensure that their group messaging is being disseminated across all of their people, but actually when they are looking for something that's specific to the area of the business that they work in, they're able to find that and also have the tone of voice that is appropriate to that specific business area as well.
Yeah, exactly. So essentially, you have the ability to configure your agent across company wide or down to specific user groups as well. And we don't restrict you on that. So full customization is available, which is great. So we don't want you to have that kind of same name throughout. So whatever's kind of right for you and your company, you have that customization for that. Moving on to phase three, which is extremely exciting. What we've kind of shown you is examples of our agents being able to search, surface content, give you sources, connecting those dots around your system and bring it into one place. The next area that we're focusing on is the more on the kind of CMS side of things. So the ability for your agent to be able to help you draft your content for you. It's a massive part of the platform. It's something that you're using to kind of interact with the most. The engagement on that is super important, but creating content, like we know, does take time. It does take effort. It takes a lot of kind of creativity, which we want to keep, but we want to try and minimize that kind of window of creation for you. So having the ability to draft content, whether that would be posts, whether that be content pages, newsletters, that process is going to be kind of helped with the kind of the addition of the AI side for you. Um,
And I think that's
that's
really important, that bit, Johnny, as well, because I know that from out within the base, so many of the customers that I work with are like maybe like teams of one and two, and they've got really huge roles. So any time that can be saved with us helping them to create their content would be awesome. And I think this is going to be hugely valuable for those things that we need to do routinely each year. We can, if we have a conference each year, or there's a week of celebrations that always happens, we can dust off the content and quite quickly update that and get it sent out to everybody. Think about obviously those things that we do each and every year in the preparation for Christmas, as an example. Parties, changes to opening times, changes to services that are available, all of that good stuff. We can just get it done so much more easily now with the help of Appy.
Yeah, exactly. And we still want your creativity to flow as well. So it's more the case of those kind of mundane tasks of putting content together, for example, can take quite a long time, and it's something that you kind of section time off for. So having the ability to work with your agent, get it to draft some content for you, get it to redraft it based on your prompts, feedback, etc. Yeah, so it's going to be a super useful feature for you. What we've kind of ran through as well there is our agents kind of answering the kind of areas for you. So we aren't really stopping at that point. We also want the agents to act on your behalf. So this could be completing tasks. It could be triggering actions that you kind of have a conversation with, and it could be, for example, would you be able to pull a report of my kind of engagement analytics over the past month or something like that, and then it would be able to do that, and then you like that exported. It could then export that for you. So these executable actions can be done within Appy as well. So that's an area that we're kind of really focusing on. And then coming on to the point of kind of reading that room, it kind of knows what the user's talking about, and it's 2 steps ahead of them. So it's getting content for them. It's bringing, here's a report for you. It's giving action. Do you want me to do this? Do you want me to do that? So that
Mhm.
kind of more agentic workflow is that 1 step after that kind of the answering stage. So yeah,
Yeah.
super
There's
excited
loads of
about
good
this one.
examples of that as well. And I think we were talking about manager earlier. I think that workflow where we're able to, you say, look at that example with maternity leave, enhance that by, well, have you, looked at the flexible working policy? Have you, looked at the mental health information that's available, during that transition back to work? So things like that, all of that good stuff would be there. It'd really help the manager going on that journey with that colleague, and also the colleague themselves. They'll get a far better output as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool, yeah. So this slide is all around kind of like enhancing what I've just spoke about, really kind of like that. Let's use that manager hub again as an example. So, there's lots of different things as a line manager with responsibilities that you need to do for your people. So, utilizing the agent as that place for, information. Okay, how do I onboard a colleague, as an example, would be one. How do I manage a return to work process from long-term sick? So we'd answer that question, obviously with confidence, but then we'd be looking at then what's next. Actually, what once that colleagues return to work, what other information can we bring to life? Also, there might actually be actions as a line manager that you need to complete at that stage, not just thinking about the bigger picture. And maybe if somebody might have been off, long term sick with a mental health issue, it could actually be you might need to complete some forms within the platform. So instead of kind of like hunting around for that form would be surfaced within Appy, and it is actually kind of guide you through that process of being able to complete that form, submit that. So it's literally that one place that you'd go to fully get that colleague back into work, and also you fulfill that line manager responsibilities within one window basically.
So in terms of the agent itself, it's already embedded within your business, which is a key kind of play. I think, Annie, it's one thing that when we talk to our clients, they ask, is it a kind of external side of things? It's already sat within your platform. It covers essentially all the branches of your engagement, whether it be comms, community, content, people within your Connect directory. It all sits kind of within your platform, and that's what your agent reads and reacts to and then surfaces. So there's no kind of change requirements. And that's the one thing that we thought about quite heavily when we were building and listening to the platform. We want change to be as minimal as possible. We want your users to be able to pick it up, start using it freely, and start to understand its value really quickly. The integration itself is a huge advantage. So what we already have, our workflows and our channels and our permissions, it all works together in one kind of flow and works hand in hand with each other.
Yeah.
Um,
I think on that integration piece as well, I've engaged for many years, and we've enabled single sign-on connections, say as an example, which has always been hugely successful to aid adoption within the platform. But I think where we can really take that the next step is, and especially around the example I shared with circular benefits, is you know we truly will become that single pane of glass if we're allowed to integrate with our customer systems far more deeply. And for me, that's something that's really exciting. If you've got like a third party policy hub as an example, it wouldn't be that the colleague is kind of like not able to kind of self-serve within Engage anymore or find what they're looking for. They'll actually be able to go in and get all of that information, or with if APIs are available with a HR platform, we'll actually be able to surface, ask the question, how many holiday days have I got left? And again, that information would be brought back. So having that full experience for our end users is so powerful. And it means, of course, that the platform's adoption and engagement are literally just going to go through the roof. So I think if you're watching this and you think, actually, we've got that platform, it is underutilized, how could we plug that in with Engage? You know, we're always open to having those integration conversations. Let's have the conversations, and then we can enable that project within the, you know, the PS team here at Engage, and, you know, get it set up for you. You know, for me, that is so exciting.
Yeah, massively. I think as well, it's again, it's like if your platform is relatively quite empty on the content side, that's what it will surface. So if we want to essentially bring other platforms into it, it's as good as it kind of extracts from. So it's super kind of exciting of what could be done, what could be surfaced through integrations, or for example, for our kind of for our holiday ones that we have. I don't know how, kind of what days I've got left of the year. I've probably used too many. Within 2 seconds, I know kind of what days I got left, and it will surface how I can then kind of apply for more or look to book time off, etc. So that integration piece is super cool. And again, I know we touched on it earlier. The security side, it's all tenant kind of isolated. So we that kind of one supplier for the IT and data protection side of things. We've merged it into our kind of, well, I say your own tenant space as well. So it's in terms of the hosting security side, we've got that bit covered. And I think again, it's stressing on this point, and Imagine Annie's got a few things to say on it, but as it says here on the slide, kind of each phase earns the next phase. We don't want to change any patterns on your side. The engagement is what's important to us. Your engagement is what's important to you. We don't want to kind of throw lots of phases onto you. This is a journey, a kind of journey we want to go on you together.
Mhm.
Um, we want to be showing you what we're building, how we're building it, how it affects you, how it's going to work. And essentially, every phase that we complete and work through is going to be stronger than the previous iteration. Because I mean, all the this kind of era that we're living in is quite kind of scary, and some clients aren't too sure what tool to use, how to use it, what value it brings, but also not using the maximum potential of it. What we've wanted to do and wanted to try and kind of achieve is create your agent for you that knows everything about your company, your users, your content, your posts. Yeah, essentially, it's super important that we create that space for you and kind of do all the hard work for you. We want to do the heavy lifting, and we want to kind of answer those kind of burning questions of how can AI enhance my business? And we want to kind of take that off you and integrate it into your platform and make it super simple for your admin users and also your front end users. And then the value will bring through a kind of itself. I think with what we've got planned as well, with our kind of roadmap, it's built into chunks. And with that, myself and Annie are going to be doing multiple sessions on how certain areas work, how your users interact with it, um, give examples. We've got lots of material plans that we're going to put in the Engage space, haven't we, Annie?
Yeah.
So in terms of that education piece, that's where we're here to help you. But again, we've kind of designed it in a way where there shouldn't really be too much of an education piece. We're hoping to be able to kind of get onto it and start using it and seeing the value of it kind of straight away.
Yeah, and I think as well on this bit, and Johnny, you know, as product manager, you'll be like, always more feedback, right? We want feedback. We want to see how it's working for you. We want to, you know, really understand that. And obviously, we're the thought leaders within this space, and we're going to be, you know, and what our development team are doing at the moment. You know, when we had our demo of work complete, it literally blew my mind and gave me lots of ideas on how I can use AI myself. And I think genuinely, it's a journey that we're all going to go on together, a really exciting journey. But yeah, you know, as you're using the AI agent, you know, feedback, we want to understand that, and any of those. Well, actually, could it do this? We are all up for those conversations. So yeah, it's, you know, use my time with the CSM conversations, and we can, you know, I'll feed that through to Johnny and the team.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, feedback's going to be really helpful for us to understand how you guys are using it, and it could be anything as well. So it could be feedback, whether how it kind of responds, etc. It's how we kind of build it and kind of build that relationship with you guys moving forward. The pace at which AI is going, we want to make sure that you have confidence in how to kind of use it
Hmm.
and understand how it works, so you can get that message to your front end users. Yeah.
Cool. So I think we've got some questions that are coming at us now. So yeah, yeah. There's always a few common questions with Appy and AI, but yeah, I think yeah, let's take those questions and we can pick between us, Johnny. You know, who of us going to answer them?
Yeah, of course.
Fab. So, oh, first one I can see. What does it cost, and is it inside our current license or is it an add-on? Okay, I think I'll take this one, right, Johnny? It's usually my field of expertise. So there is a cost to using Appy. So how we would do that, there is if you're a new customer coming on board now, the cost of Appy is 40% of your platform cost. Um, Obviously for our existing customers, we want you to come on board with Appy as soon as possible and benefit from how we're developing the agent over the coming years. So if it is something of interest, firstly, we can offer a trial for Appy. You can either turn it on for all of your lovely end users, or you can use Appy for a small test group initially. Once we've done that trial, we can then look at the commercials. At the moment, we are offering a tiered approach to those commercials. So as the functionality increases and Appy develops, the cost for Appy would increase over a 1 to 3 year period. So yeah, if that's something of interest, I can absolutely work that out for you based on the platform that you've currently got and obviously the user numbers that are attributed to your platform costs. Okie dokie. So I can see the next question is how long from sign off to begin for being live in our space? So not very long at all, actually. I think it's Johnny, correct me if I'm wrong, it's about an hour or so, isn't it, of time to get that up and running? It's not long at all, really.
Yeah, no, it's a super quick switch over. So once we get the thumbs up and the green light, yeah, super quick.
Great stuff. Okay, all right then. So next one is our content is out of date in places. What happens then? Okay, so firstly, if you have expired content within the platform, we're not looking at expired content. So yeah, I think if there is content that is out of date, take the user group permissions off it because if you don't, Appy is going to be looking at it. So if it's there and live within the platform, Appy is going to look at that. Obviously, though, Appy does know when content has been published within the platform. So if you have got something in there from 2023, but you've also got content from 2024, 2025, and 2026, it's going to take the latest and greatest content and surface that as an answer, but it will refer to that older content as well. So, that might be something that we need to take a little look at. But yeah, but the one thing for sure is if it's expired or if it's archived, I know a lot of customers have got archive folders without any user group permissions, that content isn't going to be getting looked at from Appy. It's just what's available to you as an end user within your permissions right now.
I think, yeah, I think this one could be probably both of us actually, but we already have Copilot or ChatGPT at work. Why this as well? No, yeah, super good question. I think again we referred back to it quite a few times throughout the webinar, but essentially your the kind of other ones that you might have been using or interacting with in work, they aren't actually connected to engage. So essentially, your AI agent is only connected to your engaged platform, so it knows pretty much everything that sits on there. That allows you to govern the content that your agent kind of reads through, surfaces. There's no external kind of content from the internet. It allows you to really govern what your users can interact with and the answers that it provides. So I think there's a security piece to that, a governance piece to that, but also that peace of mind as well that that your front end users, wherever they're interacting, whether they're on the app, on the train, on the way to work, and you're asking a question, they're not going to get data that isn't precise and that isn't correct. It's all going to be data that you've imported and that you've created. Yeah, I think Any more to add
Yeah,
to?
I think so. And I think obviously, ChatGPT is great, and any of the functionality, the AI tools that we use at Engage, we do use the enterprise grade versions of those. They are all paid for licenses. Obviously, with ChatGPT, there's going to be a lot of instances where people are using chat and maybe they've just got the free license there, which means it obviously isn't secure as well. And as I mentioned earlier, there is that ability to hallucinate when it is something like ChatGPT. Copilot, yep, Copilot. Those with who are lucky enough to have Microsoft email accounts and or a Microsoft account, there is that addition for Copilot. I have been privy to the costs for Copilot, and it is a lot more than the costs for Appy. So that's good. But also, as well, a lot of our lovely end users don't actually have a Microsoft account, especially if you're in one of maybe the retail sector and things like that, or within the our community platforms or customer audiences. Obviously, Copilot isn't going to apply there. So yeah, I think let's have the conversation with Appy, and if you do have tools like Copilot, or there are things within SharePoint that you want Appy to possibly take a look at it, ingest, that's a different conversation as well.
Yeah, yeah, not much to add to that point. Does it read attachments and PDFs or only page content? Um,
It does indeed. It reads attachments and PDFs, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah,
Which
yeah,
is
massively. Yeah, that's a huge one
the
that
only
reads.
thing it doesn't look at and is Excel docs, isn't it? Excel docs, oh, and images, but that's a tricky one. It can't, if there's any text on an image, it can't read that, but that's probably next level, isn't it? And Excel docs, that'd be a nightmare to do. So yeah, Word documents and PDFs, but as I've shown in the demo, it does that fantastically well. So from a colleague handbook perspective, those chunky documents that we know we've got within our platforms, no worries at all. Appy's got you covered when it comes to things like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Next one is what happens when it gets an answer wrong and does a correction stick? I think that's probably a producty one, Johnny. It hasn't really got an answer wrong for me, to be honest.
Um,
That's a good thing, right?
yeah, no, it is a good thing. Yeah, we've obviously done quite a vast amount of testing around different use cases, different scenarios, but because essentially what the agent's pulling from is your data and your content, it's only that's what it learns from. So it's knitting together, connecting the dots based on the question it's asked, what content that's kind of within the platform. We have other models like Chat or Claude or Grok, etc. Um, they're much more opinionated because they have different kind of access to different areas of kind
Yeah,
of data and information. But your agent itself that sits within your platform is taking that library of data is essentially your library on Engage of what you've kind of imported. So we haven't had any use cases where an answer's been incorrect. It
mhm,
might have been phrased a bit differently. It might have been put across in a different way. But the stuff that we added in recently around the kind of configuration of the agent itself
yeah,
has allowed us to make kind of answers more concise, more direct, and more to the point. We were, for example, one of our clients wanted to make it much more personal. So, for example, emojis were coming through. It was a bit more. The answers themselves had more context to them and a bit more kind of depth to their answers, so they're a bit longer to read through, but they were more personal. So they were kind of talking to a friend as you would in chat, um, but it would be getting to that end point just as soon as a kind of more direct answer. So yeah, I mean, if the content that you've uploaded is out of date, for example, right now it would make sense to update that content so your agent would be able to kind of know that.
yeah.
Um, but down the line, what we're working to do is if something is kind of out of date, your agent would kind of remind you of this a kind of this kind of policy is coming to kind of this certain date. Do you need to update it? So yeah,
Cool. And I think that sort of answers if it tells a manager the wrong thing, who is responsible. As you say, Appy is looking at the content that you've got within your platform. So if your content's wrong or the about policy is out of date and it advises your manager based on that, then it obviously would be your responsibility to rectify your content and ensure that that is accurate. And for example, I know a lot of customers are going to have to go through from a colleague audience perspective, taking a look at the different probation laws that are coming in. So if you haven't updated that and Appy was to look at, your previous probation policy based on the previous laws, then it was going to give possibly going to give an incorrect answer. But ensuring that you've got the, that content updated, it would mean that, it yields the right response. Okay, so can it pull from SharePoint or a HR system, or is it engaged content only? So, yes, it can do. We are always up for that integration conversation. SharePoint, HR, benefits platform, TNA system, CRM, whatever. Let's get our technical people having a conversation about it, and get those engaged complete packages getting put to good work. We're all up for that. We want to, as I say, make sure that engage is that single pane of glass that your end users only have one place to go to. So yeah, we're all up for those conversations.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think the way that we want the precedents that we're taking for this as well is that we don't want it to be just be subject to your engaged side of things. Like, you also rely on other platforms very heavily, and that's super important to your business. So the data that's in that is we'd love to integrate in and then have that kind of single source of truth within the engaged platform. So yeah.
Definitely. Okay, so this one's for you, Johnny, because I've been asked this quite a few times. How do we see the questions it could not answer?
Yeah, no, super good question. Would that be freight in terms of like how do we see the questions it could not answer?
So I would say that, for example, if a platform does actually have a missing piece of content. So, for example, when yeah, so what would we say? So say for example that probation question, if you haven't actually updated your or uploaded your probation policy, if it's got nothing to take a look at, how would our admins know that that probation policy is missing as an example? Would we surface that to them in the CMS possibly?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I think in one of Annie's examples she went through to begin with, the
About the
agent,
weather. About the weather, don't I?
yeah, the agent couldn't find what the weather was like today or whatever the question was, which that was an example of essentially that we don't go and grab information from the internet or go and get other kind of sources. And the way that it'll put it back to you will be in a personal way, depending on how you've done your configuration, and it will inform the user that I don't have this information, so it's not kind of left quite abruptly. If kind of very soon, if it's around a topic that it does have content on, and it does, for example, it might be on a specific policy that's been requested, but that policy isn't in the platform, but there is a policy quite similar to that one. It will push that towards them, like, did you mean this policy,
Yeah.
or did you mean that other policy? Um, but again, it's super important for you as admins on your side to understand what are my users kind of saying, what are they interacting with, what's that engagement piece with the agent. That's its whole kind of its kind of own kind of sphere, it kind of in itself.
Yeah.
And that's where we're kind of servicing on the admin side the engagement piece of Appy with your users, or whatever you decide to call Appy. So it will kind of service what they're asking, what's the correlation of my users within August, and there's a clear kind of pattern that they're kind of all requesting a certain topic. And that, to me, as someone that wants to kind of encourage that engagement, would be like, right, we need to make sure that we have areas of content written up about a certain area or a certain topic, which is going to make the agent learn about that, that will then surface that back to the users. So that's that kind of insights piece that you'll have in the admin side. Again, that topic works across lots of different kind of areas, whether the user might have asked for, I'm not sure, a specific event. That means that you go and create an event for it, or a group kind of might be created on the back of it. So the insights that we'll be surfacing will be super kind of useful for you guys to be able to plan areas of the platform to go and then essentially produce. On the back of that, which is kind of further down the roadmap, is it will kind of provide you with insights based on data, and then it will start to execute it for you. So it could be back to the policy example. There's it will kind of discuss with you, there's an obvious correlation that your users are asking for this area. Do you want me to draft this content for you? So that's that kind of recursive loop that we're working towards. I keep referring to policy. It's probably the most fun kind of topic, but it's
Well,
quite
that's
a
what people are looking for, isn't it? I suppose
yeah.
very often. Okay, I think that's all of our questions. And I was supposed to say, and I'm sorry, but if you do want a one-to-one session or you want to further the Appy conversation, just kind of hit on that banner on the top of the screen. I'm sure you'll have seen it throughout, but yeah, hit on that, and either myself or one of the co-founders will be back with you to arrange a follow-up session. So I think that's all of the Appy-based conversation for today. Johnny, thank you very much. That was really great. And as I always say, I am super excited about Appy and AI within the Engage platform. That was brilliant. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks guys. Cheers.
Thank you. Thanks for joining, everyone.